countdown is ongoing. And any moment now, the anticipation is just killing me. See Rory hovering on normal. All he has to do is press A to start his run. And he's done it. Hardest trick in the run and getting the prologue out of the way. So Snoopy, we've covered this multiple times now, but what can we expect to see out of the early game here?
So as long as nothing goes terribly wrong, we will see a fairly synced up early game. Although that doesn't mean nothing can go wrong, because Blades is a horrible, horrible place with, only with 3 health, a lot of things can go wrong. So, well, best of lucks to the runners so that nothing really happens.
Right. I also just want to point out Rory on the left did opt to use the color code. It just changes Ori's color. It doesn't functionally affect the run, but it's a nice bit of visual flair. Rory started out with sort of a blue color and then did it again and got pink, which I think is just super appropriate given that it's Valentine's Day. I can't think of a better way to be spending it than watching Rory.
Yeah, and just like that, we will see both of the runners pick up the first skill in the game called Sign or Spirit Flame, which is gonna allow us to finally attack some enemies, which we will see momentarily in a very short test arena.
That's right. I know that in our last commentary, Sigma and Ella were very sympathetic to these creatures. I'm far less sympathetic. It makes me happy every time I see that little burst of light that means that another Frankie has left the forest. Right there, we took out 3 of them, intentionally avoiding the experience orbs because the experience route for throughout this entire run is pretty important. But especially here in the early game, we'll be getting pretty specifically planned out pieces of experience in order to level up at the right times. Seeing both Rory and Tritonite pretty much virtually tied, really not much of a difference at all to speak of, as we see them using the little bouncy pad, using Spirit Flame to get back out, and they're going to start collecting some keystones.
And the keystones are going to be very useful to open a door to progress further in the game, which we're currently collecting 2 off to open the door that is just ahead around the corner.
That's right. That's right. Both of our runners are going to be intentionally trying to damage themselves down to ideally 1 health. Looks like Roy did get down to exactly 1 health. Tritonite with just a little more health caused his ghost door. I couldn't think of the word ghost door. Caused his ghost door to be a little bit slower, but that's only going to cost him about a second or 2. Looks like Rory, just with maybe a second lead here, not much to speak of, did take damage from that Frankie. So Rory's going to have to be a little bit careful. There's an area coming up here which we generally call the elbow. You sort of have to go right and then left around these slimes. Looks like Rory pulling it off, no problem, but that is an area that Snoopy, as I'm sure we've all experienced, can be a little bit tricky. If your movement's just a little bit wrong, you tend to touch those slimes, and they're very, very hot, and they hurt you.
Yeah, definitely. The early game can be very, very difficult to pull off, so we might see some nice safe strats here as this is a tournament run.
Yeah, and it looks like Roy kind of did opt for that. There is a damage boost you can do to get through that series of brambles. Roy opting to just take an extra second and take them out manually. Roy did get his level up on the way out, way down, excuse me, and Tritonite also got his. You can level up there on the way down or the way up, and it doesn't make much of a difference either way. But no catastrophic deaths. It's a huge relief for me to see as both Rory and Tritonite come up to wall jump. Rory still with about a 2-second lead against Tritonite.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean much, especially in this early game. So with both of them picking up wall jump here, they are now able to climb up walls, mostly very helpful over the entire run.
It is. I can tell you, I mentioned that Rory on the left has been very involved with a randomizer mod. For anyone unfamiliar with a randomizer, it basically takes all the items in a game like Link to the Past or Super Metroid or something, and it shuffles up their locations. The reason I mentioned randomizer, even though we're running all skills, is that wall jump is one of these skills that casually and in this all skills speedrun, you get super early and so you sort of take it for granted. But let me tell you that when you're running a randomizer and you don't have wall jump, and you just, I know this is a meme at this point, but sincerely, when you don't have that verticality, it can just be so frustrating.
So we saw both of them going for a small damage boost there, but Rory did take a little bit of damage beforehand, so he did go very safely and picked up some extra health so he doesn't die to any upcoming enemies.
That's right. And with that, it looks like Tritonite, I mean, technically has the lead. He has maybe 1 second over Rory, so really not much to speak of. I do also want to point out, for what it's worth, that Rory messaged in the SRL race beforehand saying that he hadn't had a lot of time to practice. He said he's only played the game about an hour in the last week, and that Rory was feeling very nervous. So Rory, despite having about a 6 minute PB improvement over Tritonite, I hope that I'm not cursing anything by saying this, but I wonder how nerves is going to play into Rory's performance. And as the run continues, it's always interesting to see whether those nerves are going to sort of diminish and you start to feel more comfortable. You're just playing the game you've played 1,000 times before, or whether, especially if you make mistakes, those nerves can start to really escalate.
So we do see both of our runners enter the definitive edition only area called Blackroot Burrows, which we are going to pick up our second skill at, or rather third skill, I guess. I always keep forgetting sign.
Well, it sounds like half a skill. It
Well, it gets added on the skill wheel, but I mean, some of our runners don't have sign, for example, in the life split layout. So like, I guess that's where my mindset comes from.
Yeah. Plus, it's not a skill tree. I think every single skill in this game you get from a skill tree except for feather and sign. Is that accurate?
Correct.
I should know that. I've played enough of this game. Anyway, we see Rory and Tritonite working their way through, just about frame for frame synced right now. Looks like Rory did make his cycle, Tritonite having to take an extra second. That was actually, even though Rory and Tritonite had almost identical movement there, the reason why Rory got a bit of a better cycle is that just about 30 seconds earlier, Rory took a really quick save and exit and reload to reset a bunch of the cycles in Blackroot Burrows. That's more of an advanced strategy that's, as you can see, doesn't save much time, only saves a few seconds, but I mean, that few seconds is enough to put Rory in the lead again.
Yeah, and just right down there, we saw our runners stop for a second in order to manipulate the cycles in the next room, and it looks like Rory actually missed it, which is going to put Tritonite back in the lead here.
That's right. Not that unexpected to see a series of quick lead changes. Thankfully, we haven't seen any rough deaths. That's what can be really bad. And now that I've said that, someone might die. Tritonite opting for just a bit of safety, jumped onto the next platform to drop down his orb before jumping up to the lever. That's going to give Rory maybe 1 more second. The lead from Tritonite is still really not anything to... Well, it's just not much, is all it is. There's not much more to say about it. They're for all intents and purposes, Rory and Tritonite are tied right now.
But it sure is nice to see that they both are keeping up with each other, which will lead to a very exciting race, I guess.
Absolutely. Snoopy, I'll toss back to you quickly to just recap everyone on the dash skill.
Dash allows you to move very, very fast. Currently, it is our fastest way of moving, and later we will be able to upgrade dash skill using the ability menu, which will allow to some very nice tricks, skips, and well, just going very fast.
Going fast is certainly nice in a speedrun. Now, what's interesting, you see Tritonite on the right having to walk super slowly. That's going to give Rory a bit of a lead again, another small lead change. What happened there is that when you use Save Anywhere to skip the cutscene at the entrance to Blackroot Burrows, you do successfully skip the cutscene, but for whatever reason, the slow zone remains. You can get over most of that slow zone by doing a dash glide, but it looks like Tritonite missed it and opted to just walk through, which, again, Rory just with a few second lead here as they head into their Frankie walk. Looks like Tritonite on the right opting to do a bit of damage before hitting the brambles, and Rory's just going to sort of leave his frog nice and healthy and then just hit him with a barrage of bullets.
So this is a trick we will kind of set up for earlier, as we did see our runners pick up a very specific amount of experience to level up at this door and open it, because we currently only have 2 energy, but the door requires 4.
That's right, and that's going to lead us into the Death Gauntlet. We've talked about it a bunch of times. It's a super scary place. It's funny looking at the Death Gauntlet. Pretty much any speedrunner you can find is going to make this area look pretty easy. Rory doing a fine job working his way through and dropped a safety save. We'll see if Tritonite on the right opts to take a similar safety save. He did, just decided to pause for a moment. There's a mechanic in this game when it comes to saves that if you're too near enemies, you can't make a save. So sometimes you'll see runners sort of opt to stand still for a minute.
Rory while we're talking, sorry. Rory was going for a quick cycle there, and Tritonite actually gets it, which puts them basically tied. Actually, Tritonite in the small lead.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I want to give props to Tritonite too. No disrespect to Rory, but I mean Rory is a more experienced runner than Tritonite, and so it's cool to see the effort that Tritonite has put in to reach this skill level. Ori is a very difficult speed game. It may not look that way, given how good some runners are, but it really is a difficult speed game.
So coming up to double jump, we'll see our runners most likely do a very small save glitch. I think it's amazing. Actually, only Rory goes for the save glitch, and he will do some blind movement in this area because the cutscene is currently playing and the camera is locked on the skill tree.
That's right, and we'll see how high Rory can get up the walls. Did successfully get up onto that right wall. He'll be continuing. With that blind movement, that is going to give Rory a bit of a lead. They were virtually exactly synced getting to the double jump tree. And that might just be a matter of experience. It might just be a matter of nerves or familiarity, especially in a race setting. But we see Rory going for a lot more of these, not advanced strategies, but just more common strategies among more experienced runners. And Tritonite may be opting for just a hair more or safety, or it might just be some individual sections of the run that he hasn't learned yet. I'd be lying if I said I was intimately familiar with Tritonite's practice with this game.
And thanks to a very, very precise jump right there, the runners are almost tied again. Tritonite having a bit of problems there, but he did get the jump very successfully, which caught him up a little bit there.
So just to give another explicit race update, we've sort of been giving constant race updates. Roryrai on the left does still have the lead over Tritonite by only a handful of seconds at this point. It's still absolutely anybody's race, never mind the fact that the second half of the run is ultra dangerous. And if any catastrophic deaths were to take place, I guess that they'd probably happen in the second half of the run rather than the first half.
That is probably correct. We do obviously hope, though, that nothing will go terribly wrong for any of the runners.
I do hope that. I feel like we have to just say that because the commentator's curse is absolutely real. It's a scientific phenomenon that's been well studied. And so we can sort of try to counteract the commentator's curse by just repeatedly saying that we hope nothing bad happens to them. Anyway, we saw Rory stop off at a Spirit Well, which is going to be a fast travel location for later. Tritonite on the right doing the same. Roryrai is going to be making his way around to the Ginso tree, but before we get there, we're going to be running a few additional errands, stopping by the grocery store for some groceries. We're going to see Rory. We may or may not see him go for this ability cell. Okay, so he is going for the ability cell. Remember that Rory is playing on keyboard mouse, and not KBM. You can do a trick later in the run known as Crazy Juggle, which means that you can skip that ability cell. Rory didn't, and so we'll see how that affects his play later on, but it doesn't really give Tritonite an advantage or disadvantage. They just both went for the cell.
Yeah, maybe it's not a bad idea to go for the strats you're more familiar with, and maybe those are a little bit easier as well. We do see both of the runners drop into a little, well, small cave here to pick up another teleporter that will be very useful just after the Jinso tree, or rather late game. Sorry, my bad.
That's right. So I have to say, this all-skills speedrun, for anyone who may be less familiar with Ori, or maybe you've never even seen it before, there are 3 primary dungeons in this game. This is the first one that Roy's entering right now, called the Ginso Tree. It has whole bunches of verticality. I think it's kind of required to say that at this point. But what's interesting about this all-skills speedrun is that we will be finishing exactly 0 out of 3 of the dungeons. We'll be skipping the second one entirely. Even this first dungeon, there was a route change about 4 months ago at this point, maybe 5 months ago, where we end up skipping the final escape sequence.
Oh, Tritonite having
Ooh.
a very weird camera bug there. It is fine, however, as he re-enters the Jinso tree. As we do see Roryrai, excuse me, pull off some very cool strats there, just barely dodging those spikes.
Now, I think on the right, we do need to see Tritonite take a save. This is, as you said, okay, good job. Good awareness by Tritonite there. I'm not sure if that safety save was just for pure safety or whether he was aware of the camera glitch. But when you do the Ginso entrance after doing the cutscene skip, if you then die in the first room for whatever reason, there is a weird camera glitch. And the only ways to fix it, you can either make a save and sort of exit and reload if you want to, or you can exit the tree and wait for a few seconds. But enough about that. Rory's made his way into the mini-boss, Snoopy.
So this mini-boss can spawn in 5 different locations. We will hopefully only see him spawn in 3, because those are currently, well, the fastest if you don't get the 1-frame tell that is possible to see on the boss.
That's right. There's another small piece of tech that I want to point out. Remember that Rory is playing on keyboard and mouse and Tritonite's on controller. So from Rory, what you're seeing is these very quick volleys of 2 shots in a row. And the way that it works is that most KBM runners bind their Spirit Flame to Scroll Wheel, which means that ordinarily there's a bit of a cooldown between your 2 attacks. But if you use Scroll Wheel in the right way, you can get these really quick volleys of attacks, which can let you take out that mini boss pretty quickly. There is still RNG, but it does let you take it out pretty quickly. Whereas Tritonite, it looks like, is actually getting similar attacks. So maybe he... Actually, I think the Tritonite on the right might just be mashing. I might be reading too much into this.
We do see Roryrai pick up some keystones here to open the door to allow us to get the next skill, which is Bash. So will you tell me what exactly Bash is?
Absolutely. Bash, otherwise more recently known as the Super Hug, is a skill that lets Ori latch onto enemies, projectiles, and certain world objects like lanterns, and what you can do is aim the bash, and when you release, Ori gets thrown in one direction and the object gets thrown in the other, and it's a pretty cool skill when it comes to Ori. It can be used for combat purposes, it's very useful for movement, and it can be used to solve puzzles. So Rory, just after getting Bash, and we'll be seeing Tritonite get Bash shortly as well, opted to do, well, didn't opt to do, he had to. He did a handful of puzzle rooms, and now he's going to be moving on to another cool trick known as the key duplication.
Roryrai will duplicate these keys here in order that he doesn't have to do a very long, nasty swimming section that we actually can't do when we do this route, since the water will be poisonous.
That's right. And swimming in poison water is not a lot of fun. Rory did successfully pull off a very clean key with a quick death that was close enough to the door. Meanwhile, Tritonite has made it to Bash and is continuing through some of the same puzzle sections. We're going to see Rory, I think, attempt to set up a hyperspeed. Looks like he got it. Nice. A hyperspeed is a small trick that if you save during a dash, you can respawn and preserve some of your dash momentum. It saves not a lot of time, but it saves a little bit of time, and it does look really cool. I also just want to give people another more concrete update. Looks like the delta after Bash between these two runners was about 38 seconds. So Rory, with a pretty solid lead, not enough of a lead that he, doesn't have to keep playing well, but certainly a nice sizable lead. And Rory's also not too far behind his personal best, which is pretty cool, especially given how nervous he said he was before the run.
And while we saw Tritonite have a trash bash here, we did see Roryrai go for, well, the newer route, which is to leave Ginso Tree after you did the elemental boss fight, and we will never go back into Ginso Tree to actually clean the water.
Nope, the forest is just going to have to deal with corrupted drinking water for the whole rest of the game. Rory on the left is going to be taking this frog. He's going to be making a quick safety save, opting to not exit, and okay, he is going to exit. No, he's not. So that frog has a certain amount of health, and what you have to do is use bashes and dashes to manipulate its position and use the frog's projectiles to break open 2 different barricades. But every time you bash an enemy, it also takes damage, which means if the frog is too low on health, you end up kind of screwing yourself over and you can't finish the trick. Rory on KBM looks like is going to opt for a double bash method of getting through the trick. Did a nice job after positioning the frog, so that's going to bring Rory into Swamp, opting to not make a safety save. That Rhino can sometimes be a bit of a bother, but did make it through just fine. And on the right, we're going to see Tritonite going for his attempts, just right behind Rory.
Rory doing another, we're trying for another small hyperspeed there, is going to come into our next skill, which is going to be Stomp.
That's right. Stomp is not a very difficult skill to understand. It's essentially a bit of a ground pound. You can just stomp downward, and Stomp has a handful of uses in this speedrun. One, it can be used to deal damage, although that won't have heavy usage in this run. Second, it can be used to just accelerate yourself downward faster than falling due to gravity. So while Roy made it to Stomp, unfortunately Tritonite is having a little bit more trouble with the Swamp entry, which even though Rory got it very quickly, this is a very difficult and precise trick, and there are sort of a lot of different factors that can cause the trick to fail. You have to position the frog really precisely, and you have to do it in few enough bashes to have the frog have enough health to survive. And you need to have yourself survive, because it's easy to take a bunch of damage yourself. And then you have to manipulate your position precisely enough to bait these frog shots appropriately.
So while Tritonite on the right is going to set up for the skip itself, we do see Rory using the same frog on the left to get up to an ability cell, and it looks like Tritonite got his swamp entry very nicely.
Nice job, Triton Knights. Meanwhile, back on the left, Rory's approaching the cutscene skip, the cutscene that is sort of like opting to reload and do it again. This cutscene is similar to Schrodinger's cat. It just may or may not exist, depending on whether you look at it. That might be the worst bad joke I've made today. It's fine. Did get it the second time. So congratulations to Rory. That cutscene takes like 17 seconds or something. So even with the exit and reload, that still overall saved Rory time. Rory then is going to be continuing on to the left to pick up his 5th and final energy cell. That's going to be all the energy we get in the whole run, although we're not done with health yet. And Triton Knight has made it over to Stomp. So Rory on the left still with a pretty commanding lead over Triton Knight, and that lead seems to be growing with the troubles that Triton Knight had with Swamp Entry.
And upcoming for Rory, we will see the next skill, which is going to be Charge Flame, which is not going to be very useful in the run, but we have to pick it up because this is all skills.
It is indeed. There are some legitimate uses for Charge Flame, but to my knowledge, pretty much every single usage of Charge Flame can just be replaced with like a Charge Dash or a Stomp if you want to. But it is a nice skill. Triton Knight is going to opt. I keep saying opt. He's going to use the same frog that he used for the Swamp Entry to get to this ability cell. That bash to get up there is a little bit trickier than it looks, so nice job getting up there. And Rory opened up a Save Anywhere glitch, a trick that lets him run around in the background with his ability menu open in order to skip a pretty lengthy cutscene at the Spirit Tree. So Snoopy, I'll ask you a more direct question. What can we expect going into the left side of the map here from Rory?
So we can expect actually quite a few deaths because the area is very, very dangerous. A lot of spikes, especially in Sorrow Pass, are gonna one-shot our runners, and in general it's very, very dangerous, so not a very good time here. We do hope, of course, though, that nothing bad will happen to them.
We do hope that. If we don't say that, then the curse will be real. We're going to see Rory quickly approaching his attempt at fast Stompless. By the way, Triton Knight did unfortunately miss his Kuro cutscene skip, and unlike Rory, decided to just take the time loss and watch it, which is a perfectly legitimate strategy. Rory then is going for his attempt at fast Stompless, a pretty precise trick that we can use to break the rocks above Kuro's head in a totally intended way that is not a speedrun trick whatsoever. We're going to see Rory. He did get a shot, which looked good to me. He still has to get up to the... Did he get the cell?
He didn't, as far as I saw.
That has to be one of the...
He actually didn't.
I'm legitimately watching this instant replay. That was so close.
Very unfortunate for him. That means he has to pick up either that cell or another cell, because we really, really need more ability points here.
We do, and that's going to be a pretty substantial time loss. Every single ability cell in this game is very carefully routed to allow us to, like any good speedrun, allow us to go fast. And since Rory missed that cell, he, as you mentioned, Snoopy, does have a handful of options, but all of them are slower than if he had just gotten that ability cell. So I'll be curious to see what Rory decides to do. Actually, well, sorry to sort of keep going. We do see Rory taking his attempts at Sorrow Bash, so I want to focus on that first. Nice job. Clean first try. Rory did indicate in his questionnaire responses that we sent out to all runners before the tournament that he was going to be going for Crazy Juggle. That's a trick I mentioned earlier in the run, but Crazy Juggle is a trick that happens here in Sorrow Pass. And we'll find out in just a moment whether Rory's going to decide to go for it. It's this frog that if you Crazy Juggle, he is going for Crazy Juggle and already damaged the frog. That's unfortunate.
So it looks like you will just go for a normal frog juggle, which is still a viable option that you don't need the ability cell for.
Yeah, since we haven't seen normal frog juggle very much in this tournament, do you want to sort of recap newer viewers on what in the world frog juggle is?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Rory will bash up this frog here constantly, because up in the top area of Sorrow Pass, we need to break a barrier to continue further up to get Sunstone, the key for the final dungeon. So we see Rory actually heading up to Sunstone first, which is a very interesting routing choice, but I guess it comes from the old route where it was very common to go first to Sunstone.
That's right, but Roy did make it through. Great job by him knowing the backups and executing them so cleanly and not sort of folding under the pressure. Meanwhile, back on the right, we do see Triton Knight taking his attempts at fast Stompless. He's having a little bit of trouble getting up. He's going to make his safety save, which is a good safety save to make. Trying to redirect this shot. Okay, there the shot goes. Now Triton Knight's going to be dashing out of the way, trying to get to the same quick death from Triton Knight. Very, very valuable safety save that was going to let him take another attempt at the trick. He's going to attempt to go pick up the ability cell that Rory just barely missed. We'll see if he can pull it off. Nice job.
Yeah, very well done. As we see Rory now going in to get a charge jump, which is gonna allow us to, well, jump up very highly, and also it will be very useful for one of the last tricks in the run actually.
That's right. Many runners, after picking up Charge Jump, would go off to the right and use Charge Jump to do a trick known as Terror Break to get up the Sunstone, which is a required item to get into the final area of the game. Rory doesn't have to do that because he attempted Crazy Juggle and then ended up defaulting to an even older strategy known as Frog Juggle to get to that. So after Charge Jump, rather than going up, Rory's just going to go down. And as Roy goes down, Tritonite is going to high-five him and go up. Tritonite on the right is about to take his attempts at Sorrow Bash, widely considered to be the most difficult trick in this speedrun. And so we'll see how Tritonite can do. Keep your eyes glued over there.
And at the same time...
Sorry, go ahead, Snoopy.
It does look very nice for him. Yeah, he does get it. Nice. Very cleanly. Oh,
no!
Rough death at the end. Shortly before making it. At the same time, we do see Rory move into Misty Woods, which is a very cool area in the game because the terrain shifts and it's sort of like a puzzle, even though it's still kind of linear. And we do see some very nice movement there with the ability to charge dash.
That's right. Well, I'll talk about charge dashing again in a moment. I do want to point out that Tritonite, he got a first try Sorrow Bash and then died, so had to do it again. And then he got a second try. So Tritonite, the professional, just not being phased by that death, is going to work through. As you said, Rory on the left, still with a pretty sizable lead, is going to be approaching his 10th out of 11th skill in this run, which is known as Climb. And then Tritonite on the right, when Rory made his way through Sorrow Pass, we saw Rory do things in a little bit of an unorthodox fashion. Tritonite is going to do things in a more sort of traditional way. Traditional in the sense that it's going to be closer to what you see most runners doing. So Tritonite is going to make his way over to Charge Jump first, and then he's going to go back off to the right and do a trick known as Terror Break. I'm going to be honest, Snoopy. I'm not sure. Death from Roy on the left. I'm not sure which screen to look at. There's exciting stuff happening on both sides.
Yeah, especially with the route difference, there's, well, I guess, new stuff happening on both screens, which is very exciting to see.
That's right. So direct your attention off to the right, where Tritonite, I think, is going to be going for his Terror Break. In order to do a Terror Break, the first thing you have to do is set up a save anywhere. Looks like Tritonite, rather than floating through these insta-kill spikes behind his ability menu, is opting to just do it here instead. He's going to float up to the top and spend an ability point to make a save just below the barricade, and then take an intentional death mid-charge jump. And when you respawn, there's one frame where the game will carry forward your charge jump momentum and allowing you to break the barricade. Well done by him. And Rory, even having a quick death after Climb, is really not letting the nerfs get to him, and is still executing some really clean play, working his way through Misty. And even with the rocket jump, cool.
Yeah, we see some very good movement by him. Tritonite, after the Terra Break, does not close his ability menu because he does want to skip cutscene that he will have to see otherwise after he picks up Sunstone. So he will float up. You probably can't see it very well, but he skips a cutscene there. So very nice by him.
Very nice job by everyone. There's another sort of unrelated piece of information that I want to point out. This is not something that you would... Oh, no.
Oh, that's a very rough death.
That one's going to hurt. And it actually does lead into what I was going to say anyway. Rory did tell us at the start of this match that he was going to be directly watching Tritonite's stream, which means that Rory would have known that he was in the lead. However, during that race, Rory was having some sort of frame issues with his stream, and so decided to close Tritonite's stream, which means that Rory right now does not know where Tritonite is. Rory knows going into this race that he has the better PB, but with deaths like that and nerves maybe playing a factor, Rory might think he's behind now. That is a very costly death.
Yeah, but maybe after the death we do see him put down some safety saves because you really don't want that to happen again.
That's right. Now, we know that Rory still does have a pretty comfortable lead. Rory is making his way towards the end of Misty Woods for the second time, whereas Tritonite is really just entering. If you missed it last time, there's a double mini boss at the end of Misty that Rory's going to be getting to in about maybe 20 seconds here. And there are a handful of quick kill methods. Roy executed a quick kill method before. Let's see if he can get it a second time. And he did.
Very nice.
I love watching that mini boss go down. It's so cool to see the movement, see how those bosses just evaporate under the power of charge flame and charge dashes and stomps, and oh my.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so hopefully nothing will go wrong this time for Rory as he's moving out of Misty Woods to go back into Blackroot Burrows and pick up the final skill in the game.
That's right. The final skill in the game is known as Light Grenade, or as it's technically called, I think, Light Burst. It's a skill that for a long time we thought was utterly useless in this speedrun. It just lets you throw a little energy ball, and who even needs to do that anyway? But it turns out that Light Burst can be used in conjunction with two other skills, Climb and Charge Jump, in order to do a very powerful trick known as a Grenade Jump. Now, if anyone watched the match just before this one, also in Speed Gaming, you would have seen Covert Muffin go for a whole bunch of grenade jumps. So many of you watching may already be familiar with the trick, but in case you're not, it's a way to cling to a wall and do a charge jump off of it and preserve a huge amount of momentum and just gain an enormous burst of speed.
That's gonna come in handy, especially towards the end of the game, as we see Rory very nicely moving through some cycled lasers there that would actually one-shot him. So good job by him skipping another cutscene coming up to, well, the skill tree for a light grenade.
Yeah, that's right. Snoopy, do you think we will see some of these Covert Muffin style grenade jumps from Rory, or more of a traditional path?
I think, especially after that costly death in Misty, he's probably gonna play it more safely and only gonna go for the, well, not even required grenade jump at the end of the game, but otherwise I don't think we'll see him go for some of these grenade jumps.
I think I would agree with you, and it does look like that's what we're seeing. Meanwhile, to give an update on Tritonite, he's still playing very, very cleanly. Remember that Tritonite has only been with this game for a few weeks and has about a 6-minute slower PB than Rory. Given those two pieces of information, Tritonite, I think, is still having some very clean play. Back at Sorrow Bash, he got it effectively first try twice, even though he died. A lot of his movement has been, you know, maybe not quite as polished and clean as Rory, but certainly very, very respectable. And that's exciting for me to see. I love all the new runners we've had in this tournament. We're up to 71 entrants in this All Skills tournament, as opposed to, well, less than that in the last one. It's awesome.
Indeed. And after a quick death by Rory to the lasers in lower Blackroot, we do see him pick up another health cell that will be absolutely required for the final escape, as water is still poisonous since we never cleared the water in Jinso Tree.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So Rory has all of his skills. He's just beelining to the final dungeon using that sunstone we picked up way earlier. Just after actually Rory gets into the final dungeon, Rory is also opting for a 6th health cell. We know that Tritonite is going to be going for 6 health. I wasn't sure before the start of the race whether Rory was going to be, but now we know that he is. Rory's going to have to execute Door Warp. So do you want to quickly talk about Door Warp?
Yeah, sure. Door Warp is a one-frame trick, which is gonna allow us to quickly teleport towards the end of the dungeon, because we really don't want to be in Mount Horu for too long. So we will see Rory after the short cutscene here, exit the game because of an auto save, and then once the game loads in again, he's gonna try to press up on the first frame in order to skip the entire dungeon. Very nice, he gets it first try.
What a professional. I love it. We like to joke in the community that the history of Ori speedrunning has basically been finding new and better and faster ways to skip more and more of Horu. At first we did like 3 rooms, then we did 2 rooms, then we did like 1 room, then we did no rooms, and now we go right to the end. It's super, super cool. Anyway, that's going to bring Roy to the final escape. So Snoopy, we've talked about this a little bit, but what is so scary about the finale here?
So once again, we didn't clear out the water in Jinso Tree, so upcoming is a, well, lake of water which we have to move through in order to get to the end. So Rory cannot take any damage in the final escape as he's moving very quickly through it, trying to get a very nice cycle on the fish here in order to not take too much damage, but it looks like with a 6 HP he is pretty safe and gets through just cleanly.
Nice job by Rory. He has one final grenade jump, which, as you said, Snoopy, is not required, but saves a pretty large amount of time. Rory did do a pretty cool grenade jump before the Horror Door, so we know that he's capable of this trick. And he got it second try. Very well done. GG to Rory. He's going to be taking the victory in this race after he holds right with a little bit to walk to the side with Naru.
Oh, very, very unfortunate death there, as Strider Knight was escaping the boulder and trying to get to the next health cell, which is going to put him back just right in front of these lasers again.
That's right. Now, just a moment ago, as Rory's about to finish up here, we mentioned that Rory started off watching his opponent and then had to stop watching him. Triton Knight did confirm that he is not watching Rory, which means that I guess through the SRO window, Triton Knight may know that he has lost this race very, very shortly. But still, just a very, very clean performance from both of them. Rory is coming to the end with a clean victory. GG to Rory, overcoming nerves and a handful of rough deaths to take the victory, with a final time of 35 minutes and 10 seconds.
And so now we see Strider Knight just actually very close behind him, moving up to the final dungeon as well. We didn't see many mistakes from him. It's just that, well, I guess to more clean movement, Rory was able to make up all that time.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that can be the difference between the really experienced Rory runners and some of the newer ones. Is Triton Knight has certainly had some deaths in this run, has certainly had some slop, but overall has had a totally okay run. That sounds kind of mean, but I mean that's the reality. His run has been totally fine, and Rory, despite not having a run that maybe he'll be totally satisfied with, showing his experience in pulling off a lot of these tricks. Like even in Sorrow Pass, Rory made some mistakes with his crazy juggle and immediately knew multiple different backups to get through. That's something that just comes with experience. But enough about history. Triton Knight's coming up on his door warp attempts, has made his way into Mount Horror. The game will autosave, and then he's going to try to press up the frame that the game loads. Missed it first attempt. Coming up on second attempt, missed it second attempt. Each of these attempts, thankfully, only loses a few seconds, so it's not too awful. And got it third try. Cool.
Very nice by him there.
I think that still brings down the tournament average. I'd have to verify the numbers, but third try on a frame perfect trick like that is nothing to be too concerned about.
I mean, Strider Knight is not very far away from his PB, and especially looking at the first race time, this is a really good race for him.
Yeah, holy cow. I guess we did have these stats, but I didn't realize. Again, I don't want to curse things, but Triton Knight has only played one other race so far versus Covert Muffin and had a time of 54:16. And so I'm not entirely sure offhand without confirmation on what Triton Knight's actually, what am I talking about? I do have Triton Knight's PB written down. Looks like I'm messing up my words here. I apologize. I'm trying to see whether it's possible for Triton Knight to PB. Triton Knight is currently, you can see the timer at the top running, just approaching 38 minutes, and Triton Knight's PB is a 38:44. So it might be impossible to PB. It's going to be close. Triton Knight can absolutely crush his first race time, though took damage in the water, and that's going to be enough to take him out. Triton Knight has to repeat his final escape. Oh boy.
That was a very unfortunate death there. This was a very exciting race to watch, especially the early game with a lot of speed changes. It was very nice to watch.
Oh yeah, Triton Knight kept pace with Roy for a long time. But we're not done yet. With that death by Triton Knight, it just means that we get to see this final escape one other time. If anyone has played this game casually, you know how many times you died. And for Triton Knight to have only taken one death here so far is still very impressive. Using his 6 health very valuably, is that a word, to get out. And Triton Knight's going to head up, bashing off some boulders to set up his grenade jump, a 1-frame trick. You have to press 2 inputs 1 frame apart. Missed it the first time. That's okay. Thankfully, we also despawned Kuro, so there's really not much risk in trying this multiple times apart from just time loss. Missed it the second time. Looks like has enough energy for 1 more attempt. Oh, never mind. It comes back. So has enough energy for some number of more attempts, and he got it.
Very nice. Just has to move to the right there, skipping some of the cutscene due to that trick, which means it's gonna be even shorter of movement.
That's right. That trick at the end saves enough time that it's generally worth it to give it. I don't know the exact number of attempts, but like I'm sure that still probably saved Tritonite time despite all those attempts. It saves quite a bit of time. But anyway, we're going to be holding right. Well, Tritonite's going to be holding right. I'm not pressing anything. I'm just sitting here. And then Tritonite's going to finish out his race. GG to both runners. Certainly with a sub 40 here from Tritonite. And how much is this going to beat his first race time by? Tritonite's first race time was 54:16, and this is going to be a sub 40. So that's like a almost 15-minute improvement on his race time. Oh my god.
That is very impressive.
That's completely reasonable. Anyway, GG to Rory. Rory did take the victory. Snoopy, do you have any sort of additional thoughts about the outcome of this race? I'm going to mute myself for a moment and see if we can get some interviews going if Rory and or Tritonite are up for them.
So this race was very interesting to watch. I really loved the early game and in general a very good performance by both of them. As we can see on the stat leaderboard here, Rory is gonna move into second here with 1 win on the leaderboard. Tritonite 0-2 with a very nice save there on his race time though. And in the top we can see, as we talked about, Covert Muffin with his 3-0 taking the victory over the group.
That's right. Pause for a moment. Rory, I just dragged you in here. Congratulations on your win, dude.
Thanks. It was an adventure.
The first question I want to ask you, I know that you mentioned that you were nervous before the race and you hadn't been able to put in a ton of practice. How did you feel that affected your run?
I think it certainly affected my early game, I think. And then once I got going, I was all right. But I did end up I took a couple bad deaths later on just because I wasn't thinking quite straight.
That's very understandable. I want to jump into another question. I know that you started the race watching Tritonite, right?
Yes, I did.
But you had to close it, didn't you?
Yeah, I was told that I was dropping frames pretty bad, so I ended up closing that stream around the falling down into Moon Grotto cutscene.
Sure.
So after that, I had no idea.
How nervous were you, especially with like the Misty Wood stuff?
I think ironically, I actually got less nervous through the mid game after closing the stream, but then like I got Sad Celis, failed the Crazy Juggle backup, and then took that horrible death in Misty, and was like, this is not good. Especially because earlier I saw Tritonite post a really good pace in general in Discord, and I was like, if he's on that pace again, I'm in trouble.
Well, Snoopy, do you have questions for our Victor Rory?
I just want to give props for the backup at Sad Celis because I definitely wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, my theory was that trying Crazy Juggle and failing it is probably going to be about the same or maybe a little faster than going to do Sad Celis, and succeeding it is definitely way faster than Sad Celis. So I figured, I'm going to cut my losses and try this.
That is very, very logical, especially under pressure. Like Snoopy sort of alluded to, I feel like in your situation, I might have just panicked. So good job there with all the adaptations. One of our favorite commentating words when we're commentating these races is adaptation.
Exactly. I'm sure you got to say that quite a bit there. Yeah, that was something that I planned as a backup in case something like that happened.
Yeah, that's smart. Well, I also noticed that you got the cell before the Ginso tree, which is not required if you do Siege Juggle route, right?
Right. Like I've been practicing the Terror Break route just because it's so much more consistent. It's a lot easier. But because I have been able to do Crazy Juggle before since I run all dungeons, which requires it, I figured I can at least have this in my pocket as a backup to try if something like that were to happen.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I mean, it paid off. Snoopy, any final questions? Otherwise, I'll close this out.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, that's 2 back-to-back matches out of Kuro's Nest. We're not done totally with Kuro's Nest, but that's a bunch of the matches out of the way. Rory, congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
And Trite Knight, even though you're not here speaking with us, congratulations on a ridiculous improvement over your first race. We do have one more Ori match for you today. It's not right now. It's going to be on Speed Gaming 2 at 6 p.m. Eastern. So we have about a 2-hour gap. That match is going to be between SR Flux and Zirla. So come back for that later on Speed Game 2 if you want to see more Ori action. And then we have even another match quite a bit later tonight at 1 a.m. EST. So, if anyone, depending on your time zone, wants to stay up late, we have potentially 2 more Ori matches for you today. But otherwise, that'll do it for us on Ori. Next up on Speed Gaming, we have Link to the Past Randomizer Key Sanity, one of those matches. And so if you want to see